I was still young when I went to the land of Africa, Kenya. I was invited by the Brothers of Charity, formed by Mother Teresa of the Sisters of Charity. There were Indians, and they did not follow the value of the vow of poverty. And I came to live like our dear Mother of Teresa in Africa. So I was doing it hard, going through cold turkey from heroin. I swear I'll never touch it again. The suffering was too much, but the street boys used to use our wall to hold up a shelter, and I could smell Yandi coming over the wall, and I got up and asked if I could smoke some of their joint. And it took the edge off the suffering of the cold turkey that I had from the day I arrived in Kenya. I had my last blast before that day. These boys lived it hard, and it was so that we were situated on the edge of the world's largest slum ghetto. I should say the houses were made of mud, and there was so much filth there it smelt terribly. One day a man came to our clinic, but he was last in line, and the prayer bell rang for the Brothers of Charity to go off to pray, and he was told to come back the next day. I said no, I'll treat him with his third-degree burns all over his groin and bottom and thighs of his legs, and I treated him, and the brothers were not happy about it. Anyway, I went with him, Julius, to his house where he lived deep in the slum ghetto, and every day I visited him to treat him, as I could hardly treat him with the little medicines that I had, but I did my best, and it helped him well, as he could hardly walk, to go back to the clinic where the brothers lived. And what pain he had. I had met a family in the ghetto that let me move in, but I was taken to meet a Rastafarian that had a bar in the ghetto, and when I came back to my place with the family I was living in, my camera was taken. So I left them and wiped the dust off my feet, and I moved in with this Rastafarian, and life with him was hard, right in the middle of the slum ghetto, where there were no proper sanitary and showers or anything like that. He showed me a document to register the Kenya African Youth Association, Kaya Group. The local government wouldn't let them register Kaya Group because Kaya means ganja too, and they, the Rastas, asked me to help them to register the Kenya African Youth Association, Kaya Group. And I, being of light complexion, even though I am Aborigine, but my Jewish blood gives me white skin as an Ashkenazi Jew, and I was honoured by the government, and they allowed us to be able to register Kaya Group, the Kenya African Youth Association. I was made international coordinator, and the Australian Embassy was going to sponsor our project to build the first school and hospital in the slum ghetto. But there was a change of government in Australia, and John Howard was in, and he changed all the staff at the embassy at the High Commission of Australia, and he wouldn't want to help the slum dwellers. I went up to the Mount Kilimanjaro, Kenya, for Nanuki show. There I met my ex-wife, and we got along, and she came to Nairobi with me, and over 6 weeks we were together. She fell pregnant to my son John, and after that 6 weeks I had been in the slum ghetto 6 months, and I was taken to the office of the government to renew my visa. I was told by the Kenya government that I had to go home, and they took my passport. I went to the Australian government at the commission and said I wanted to go to Ethiopia, Shashamani, the land where Haile Selassie gave to the Rastafarians to settle from all over the world, for Africans to be able to settle back in Africa where all the Rastas live. And they got my passport back and got my visa to go to Ethiopia. After being there a while, I had heard of 2 embassies of USA were blown up. It was there I used to play the didgeridoo to feed me and my new partner at the time. I used to stand outside the American embassy and play my didgeridoo. If I was there, I would have died. So God made a miracle to protect me. After 3 months, I got a visa to go back to Kenya to see my partner. I knew she had fallen pregnant to me, and I had to see her, and that I did, and she was now showing 3.5 months pregnant. I was blessed. Even though I was suffering in the slum ghetto, I was not alone, and I had a baby coming too. Thank God. This just part of my short story of how I lived in the ghetto, the slum of slums. That was my home, and I was loved by all those that lived in the ghetto. They called me Man Called Mike. I was the first non-African to live in Kibera Slum Ghetto. It is real as real can be and get, and I come back with anorexia and never seen so much suffering before in my life. You can't believe it. I lived 12 months in Africa with only $270, and my mum bought my air ticket to Kenya from Ethiopia for my birthday. That's all I had. I had given all my clothes and shoes to the poor except the change of clothes and the clothes on my back, and I got some leather sandals in the slum market where it was pounding down with El Nino rain and mud everywhere. I walked barefoot straight into the market and found a perfect pair of sandals. I had nothing, and when my family heard I moved out of the Brothers of Charity, they thought if they didn't send me money, I'd come back to Australia. But nothing could stop me from living in the slum ghetto with my woman and her carrying my child. One day I'll write a biography and explain my time in the slum ghetto properly for my children and grandchildren to understand more about me and my life I lived in the slum ghetto. There I had a mental breakdown and malnutrition. I am lucky to be alive to have survived. I learned there men are born to suffer. You couldn't believe if what I went through, and I learned the most smallest pleasures in life can help you to survive. I'll never forget Kibera Slum Ghetto. It changed my outlook on life, whether I was ready or not. Africa and the slum ghetto had me tied with the suffering of the people, and caring as my heart is, I did all I could to help them. And I'll never forget Kibera Slum Ghetto. It changed my outlook on life, whether I was ready or not. Survival was all I had, and love got me through it. If only you could have been with me or seen what I had gone through, then you would understand me better. It was a hard life, and I just think about all the friends that I've left behind that are living in them slum ghettos. Some of them must have died. There's lots of HIV and AIDS in the ghetto. There's so much pain and suffering, malnutrition, anorexia, just starvation in general. At one time I was living off a cup of soup a day before I met my partner and started playing the didgeridoo out front of the American Embassy. Or I used to play the didgeridoo at the Australian High Commission at happy hour. And all the embassies that used to join us used to make donations, and those that worked in the United Nations. And that's what got me and my partner a house and a mattress and cooking utensils and a bit of food for the first couple of days. And I appreciate everything that the Australian government did for me back then. It's just a shame that they didn't help the people living in the slum. There's so much more they could have done. This is my slow rap about Kibera Slum Ghetto. I call this Kibera Slum Ghetto, or just for short, Ghetto. I love you, my children, and I'm happy I didn't die in Africa and that I'm here with you now. Even if I'm not right with you all the time, I'm looking for you, and I hope to spend some time with you as you get older. Amen.